late response to the GGR question and answers. In fact, I was surprised that we had any questions that required answering because everything's starting to wind down. Anyway, there's still some interesting bits and pieces, and it's been a long day for us because Jane's about to leave tomorrow. Jane, don't walk away. So Jane will say goodbye from France. It's not goodbye from GGR. Come and say goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Say bye-bye. Excuse me. Yeah, so Jane's out of here tomorrow. I'm actually leaving to go on Saturday afternoon after we do 3 days of film festivals that start tomorrow. And the office is pretty much gutted. We've still got a presence here, obviously, and serious plans underway for Tapio's arrangement when he arrives. I've got a sneaky suspicion it's going to be a big arrival. We spoke to him today. I'm sure you've already heard the SoundCloud, and he's doing okay. So he's on his way here. Basically, just so you know, there's going to be continuous ongoing updates. The GGR Facebook page doesn't die because the 2018 edition is winding down. You probably noticed now there's different things that come up that are topical for GGR. Also, we've got a group of 20 2022 entrants already. The hashtag for that will be GGR 2022, so you'll see more of that popping up now than the 18 on the posts. And yeah, there'll be a lot going on. So it's not like it was in the lead up to 2018. First of all, it took us a while to get a following. You know, we've got 40,000 followers now, and that'll continue to grow. But we also know what the event is, and so we've got a lot of different things going on. We may be, well, there's a few things planned in the next number of months. We may be in other parts of the world doing presentations on GGR. Certainly in not this weekend, next weekend, Jane and I are doing presentations in China at a particular yacht club because there's some interest there. And we've had another couple of entrants put in applications, so the wait list now is growing on 2022. Some very interesting entrants coming up. So yes, there's a lot going on, so don't think that it's going to fade away. Also, we're heading back. We'll be in China for 3 weeks, and then we go to Tonga, which is where we live, which is the base of the Royal Namuka Yacht Club. So you'll hear a bit about that, and you'll see posts from us at the yacht club, out front of the pole. There's paradise, beautiful beaches. You know, Tonga, the Kingdom of Tonga is an amazing place, and if things go the way we hope, you'll see much more involvement from the Royal Namuka Yacht Club in the GGR. We didn't really get into the Tongan flavour, but if we get budgets and we get sponsors, I think there'll be some fun things happening in the end. All the finishers of the GGR are now life members of the Royal Namuka Yacht Club. I'm the Commodore of the club. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince of Tonga is our patron, gives us the royal assent for the club. And we hope to actually build the clubhouse. Hopefully it'll be finished sometime next year. It's quite a cool little place, but we'll keep everyone updated on that as well. So for now, yeah, things are definitely changing. They're definitely winding down. And we're looking forward to Tapio arriving, so everything pretty much carries on as normal for now. And occasionally, I think the question and answer sessions will probably come up about once a month because we're not assuming there'll be a lot of random questions, but we'll expect to just open it up to see who's got anything they need to know. And yeah, there'll be a lot going on. Jesse and Tina they've finally finished all of the interviews. We've captured some amazing things from the entrants. And we've got a lot of their onboard footage, so the big deal now is to spend a number of months cutting that and working out how will eventually make it to market. Hopefully we'll get to sell it to cover some of the costs, but we'll see. So stand by for the documentary. I would suggest it's not going to be around for probably 5 or 6 months yet. There's quite a bit of work involved. For the book, I'm writing the book. Sort of got a lot of material already, but it'll take, if we're lucky, the book may be out by the end of this year, but we'll just wait and see. For now, the book is technically underway. When I clear my head in another few weeks, it'll speed up a bit, and there'll be some interesting stuff revealed in the book. I'm quite certain about that because there's a lot of behind the scenes things that go on, a lot of the fine detail and so on. You probably noticed that I haven't done any thoughts for months now. It's quite amazing. Even I'm surprised because I sort of enjoy writing those thoughts column. It gives a bit of a heart to heart on how I'm feeling and what I'm thinking about. But the reality was, from my perspective, involved with the wind-up of the race, it was pretty much well, we had to focus on all the arrangements that had to be made. We had to allow ourselves time to get excited. So a lot of emotional energy went with the entrance and the things that were happening. So you can only write when you feel like it, sort of thing. But my energies were literally zapped here, there, and everywhere. But the thoughts columns will flash up again, and they'll be a regular thing as well on the GGR website and so on. 22 entrants will be up on the website very soon. We decided to wait until after everything is wound down, so we're not confusing it with the current entrants. But there's there's a bit of interest on the 22 entrants now, so we will very shortly be opening up the 22 entrants list on the website. 18 entrants will still hold a bit of a priority, probably until September this year, which is 3 years out from the start, and then it'll roll over. You'll see the 18 entrants sort of dip down a cog, and the featured entrance will be 2022. So yeah, some interesting stuff going on. So questions. Excuse me. Okay, Margaret Keys put up an interesting one. She said that whilst the calls that were made into Tapio at the press conference were really good for us, and it was fun to know he was out there and stuff, she was worried that it was very distracting for him, breaks his concentration, increases the loneliness and so on, and asked us if we had contacted his family. Well, no, we haven't contacted his family, because we talked to Tapio, and there's no question Tapio wanted to make that call. He very much wanted to be part of what's going on. He asked if he could put a recorded message out at the presentation, and he just beat us to asking him. He said he wanted to do it, and he did do it. It was fantastic. Tapio's an emotional sort of guy, and he mentioned in the emotional and philosophical and well-read, well-versed, as we all know, pretty cool character. And he understands all that. So obviously, when it was all going on, he felt a bit down on it. Wished he had been here. He said it was the low point of the race for him, and that is completely human response. Very ordinary. It's not as if it's something that would have been easier had he have not made that contact. And in fact, personally, having been through some similar things when you're going on expeditions and stuff, it was good for him. If he had been locked out and said no, you can't do it, or didn't want to do it or something, it would have been worse. So he was happy to be part of the party, and so was everyone else. So it's all good. Clive Wales wanted to know when are the 2022 confidential entries announced. And to be quite honest, we're not worried about confidential entries. We understand the purpose for it. Some people haven't told their employers yet. Some people are dealing with family even, and they might be making plans with sponsors and so on, so they want to hold back as long as they can. It's actually in the notice of race, and I forget. I know it's either August, September this year, or it's August, September next year. It's like we have a turnover date, which is, it was going to be August the 22nd, but now the start's moved to September the 4th. So it'll either be August the 22nd this year, or September the 4th next year, something like that. But no longer than that, because 2 years out is people want to know who they are and so on. So that's pretty straightforward. Sandy wanted to know about wanted to know about the self-steering gear arrangement on Suhaili, which is unique to Suhaili, and that gave me the idea. So pretty cool. I should get the model and do a full explanation on how it worked, because when we started perceiving the model, I wanted all that equipment on the boat so that's very realistic. And in fact, the first 4 prototypes, as you know, have been done. They're pretty cool. But now we start on the 1 to 50 models that are available to the public, and they'll be even more detailed. We've looked at a couple of issues there and so on. So the new limited edition anniversary model is going to be fantastic. So if you want to know the answer about self-steering gear, excuse me, coughing into the mic. Then look at that live. It was a few posts down. It was quite a bit of fun doing that. So Outdoorsy from Hampshire wanted to know about the Dismasting Report. Hang on a sec. Dismasting Report. Sorry, yeah, where are they? Okay, so he was just saying he had heard it was there. The reports are available on the last press release we sent out. The copy's on the GGR website. If you just read that press release, you'll see along the bottom of it there, it says, here's the link to the actual report, so Robin Knox-Johnson's sort of summary report on what's going on with the, having spoken to all the different skippers and got their opinions on different things. So that's where you get it. Just go to the last press release on the GGR website and go down. You'll see link to the heavy weather report. Sandy Rafferty wanted to know, in that report, Robin's talking about running a bite on Suhaili. The bite was the rope. I should have done this on the model as well. I didn't think about it. But here's the bow and here's the stern, okay? And it's a long rope, 700 feet of rope that goes way down the back, and then it returns to the opposite side of the boat. And where he ties it off usually is actually on the king post. Now, the king post is the big single bollard at the end of the bowsprit. So the bowsprit comes in and you've got this major king post there. Incredibly strong. It's supposed to be designed and able to tow the boat. Like, it's the strongest point on the boat. So he'd tie off the warp at that point, run it down the starboard side of the boat and let it go through the aft bollard, like as a fair lead sort of thing, and way out the back of the boat, return on the other side, come back in again and go back to the that king post again. So that's taking the weight of it and creating the drag in the loop. So that's the principle of it. Then she wanted to know if it was tied to the aft mooring bits, right? It's got big horn bollards at the back sort of thing, like would they need to be strengthened? Excuse me. And yes, they would. They need to be really strong so that they're not going to rip out the back of the boat. And in fact, if you look at the GGR boats, you'll see a lot of the entrants had actually put horizontal chain plates off the transom corners, where the transom comes up port and starboard to the deck. You'll see these stainless steel plates going back through, bolted along the hull, and then sticking out the back. And what they were using that for was to set up a bridle. It would be a spliced bridle with a hard thimble in there. They'd use a shackle to connect to that metal plate coming back, and that's better than any bollard or tying off because it's really strong. And the bridle could be really thick, 2-inch type rope that then you connect your warps to the back of that. Or if you're running a drogue, you do the same thing. You've got this sort of solid connection to these chain plates on each side, which are clear of everything, so there's no chafe. If you use it on deck, you might get a bit of chafe from the bollard running across the deck and off the back of the transom, or it might conflict with your wind vane and all those sorts of things. So these sorts of things is pretty much common sense. They've got to be really super duper strong. So if it's a bollard, huge backing plates, extra glass in the deck area or whatever, or just run those like chain plates there. Excuse me. Okay, and she asked, how do you get the stuff back on board again? That's always the problem. But with a bite, it's a bit easier than a drogue, because all you got to do is get one side of that bite and get it onto one of your winches and get it on the winch and just start winching. And so you're just pulling rope in, and you got like a 2-to-1 purchase, because you're only pulling one side in because you're pulling the bite. You know, the bite's getting closer and closer and smaller and smaller, so eventually you'll get it back in. It's a lot easier pulling a bite of warp rather than a sea anchor or a drogue, you know, because the drogue's got huge resistance and there's massive loads involved, and you've got to be really careful, and you've got to practice it in good weather and understand the complications associated with dealing with drogues off the back of the boat, and watch your fingers and arms and legs. You know, I've heard some horrific stories. Even my friends have had very close calls with drogues. Okay, and she brings up a very good point. You know, she's very frustrated in this whole thing. So it's hard to know, even reading Sir Robin's report, it's hard to know what to do, you know. So there doesn't seem to be any simple answer, and that's exactly right. This is the big deal, you know. What you need to do is do a lot of reading, make up your own mind about your particular boat, what you think the characteristics are of it in the ocean, in various things, and you start to decide what equipment you want to carry and when you might want to deploy it, because every storm is different, every wave pattern is different, so many different issues on what you can and can't do. And she also mentioned there about in the report that Robin's saying when he puts the warps out, he puts a tiny little sail right up the front. And I call that sail a vane sail, like you have a wind vane at the back of the boat. This is like putting a wind vane right at the front of the boat. I spoke to Robin about this, and he really liked the idea of the name as well. He said, that's a good name for that sail. It's basically a tiny triangle. It's got no shape in it. It's just dead flat. You put it right up the front of the boat as far forward as you can, and stick it there and sheet it fore and aft or on the centre line, so it's just bar tight. And all it's for is if the wind's coming from behind and you're towing warps, and two main reasons for towing warps, one is to slow the boat down a bit, and the other is to keep the drag coming from the back of the boat so it'll go downwind straight, stop it rounding up and so on. So you imagine that the wind's coming this way and the boat goes down and starts to round out a bit, so it's going out to port or starboard. If you've got this little tiny sail up the front, the wind's going to hit that and blow the nose down. So by blowing the nose down, it's helping the whole concept of steering downwind. And so it's a really good idea. I actually made one of those sails for my first boat, Duncan 29, never used it. But it was from my obsession of reading, the books of Robert Knox Johnson and Matessia and all that stuff. And I really like the idea of this weather vane right at the front of the boat. And I think if I was going down to the Southern Ocean in one of these GGR boats, I would definitely have a vane sail or something tiny that you can put right out the front that's dead flat, quite small, strap it in, and helps to blow the nose down. There was a chap by the name of Otrans, I can't read the writing, sorry, was wondering about using climbing rope for warps because it was stretchy and stuff. There's no reason why you couldn't, but the whole principle of a towing warp is to create drag resistance. So a climbing rope is very, very thin. You have static and dynamic ropes. One's very stretchy, one's very thin. But the bottom line, it's like a 32 plait rope, very smooth. It's like a bit of rod, very fine plait, an incredibly expensive rope, but he's got to lurk to get second-hand stuff or something. And it's very stretchy if you're using your dynamic rope, You don't need stretchy, doesn't matter. You just need bulk, and usually 3-strand, because that's more resistance again. You've got the 3 strands dragging through the water. So I wouldn't say there's any real advantage of using old climbing rope for warps. It'll create resistance, but nothing wrong with using it. But the principle is not all about being stretched; it's all about creating resistance rather than stretch. Mike Phillips asked if there was a printed list of the trophies. There's some of it in the press release, but I can quickly run through it. Jean-Luc was first boat home, so he got the model. He also was presented the Perpetual Trophy. He also got a globe, and he also got a check, and he also got a Ralph Tech watch, a big one. I've got 2. I've got this one and another one. So he got quite a bit of gear. Mark Slat's got the model and the globe as second place. And then Uku got the model, he got the globe, and he also got the first Corinthian entry, which was the big trophy that you saw there. And then Istvan got his Astrolabe as the last boat home before the prize-giving presentation. Plus he got a globe. And when Tapio gets in, touch wood, assuming he gets in okay, he will get the Spirit of Adventure, Spirit of the GGR award. It's the McIntyre Adventure, Spirit of the GGR award. He will also get a quadrant that was made by Meridian, the same people that made Istvan's Astrolabe. He will, which was on live Facebook today with a couple of old blokes. Robin was here and we were talking about that. He'll also get the globe, and I think it's one other. I can't remember now.
No,
3. Okay, so he gets those 3. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward as well. So then he was asking, there's no females on the list for 22. That's exactly right, but we have 3 looking, so hopefully we'll get at least one of those 3. Maybe even 2 of those 3. And wouldn't it be funny if we got 3 of the 3? And then he says, we're full up. How are they going to come on board? Well, we can issue up to 5 special invitations. And yes, we would, not that women are special. They're the same as guys. I don't want to go into being any favoritism or anything like that. But nonetheless, it would be great to see women. So they would potentially be considered for getting a special invitation into the GGR. The other thing is you have to remember we've currently got 20 on the list, and we've now got 2 others on the wait list. Some of the people in the 20, I hate to say it, they're not going to make it. I don't know who. I'm not giving it as a suggestion or reflection, but believe me, I know how this works. You're not going to see all of the 22 that you're getting to know now at the start of the GGR. It just doesn't happen. There's so many things that create that make the GGR what it is. It's incredibly tough, and the first challenge they've all got is to actually get to the start line in a fit state. So in other words, meet all the criteria of the GGR, and then when they get to the start line, they got to get to the finish, and then it's game on. So watch this space. So there's no reserve spots, but we do have the ability to have special invitations. The interesting one is that there are a lot of 2018 entrants that are hoping to be there in 2022. So we could get crowded, but we'll see. We're targeting up to 30 entrants, and it's very hard to do that at the end because you always get last dropouts. So I got a gut feeling that we might see 26 to 30 entrants starting the next edition of the GGR. So we'll wait and see. Julie Anderson was watching Igor's press conference, but she couldn't understand a word of it because it was in Russian, and all she could figure was that he got a medal. What's going on? A medal. Excuse me. Yes, he got the medal. It was one of the GGR. He got the globe, and he got a coin. All the entrants get one of the original coins, the gold medals. But his medical situation is something like this. They've revealed it to the public. We never talk about personal medical matters because that's private to the entrant. We certainly know what's going on, but we don't usually do that. But Igor made the decision to tell the public. He lost a kidney sometime before the start of the race in July last year. It was many, many months before. He had the full recovery. We got all the reports. He was fit to go. So he's running on one kidney. And when he got into Albany, they had hope that the cancerous side of the health issue would have been dormant, gone away, whatever, and there was some tests made, and it appeared that wasn't the case. So he's come back to Russia, and he had another operation in March, and they're very confident that operation was successful. He came across to the prize presentation, which was fantastic. We're all very happy to see him. He's such a great guy. You know, everyone's a different character, and he's just the sort of guy you just love giving him a big bear hug. You know, he's cool. So anyway, he's firing on all cylinders. You know, he's very confident, very positive. He and his team will be heading over to Australia sometime late October, early November, and be ready to set sail sometime middle of November, something like that. So all is good with Igor for now. Matt Robertson wanted to know, with the increase of storms and so on, with climate change, are we inclined for 2022 to allow full weather routing? And no, we're not. I mean, it's impossible to do. The only way you could allow weather routing on the boats would be to have onboard computers and satellite access to weather information, so on. That'll never happen. We're not allowing any weather routing on radio traffic and so on. So there's absolutely no weather routing. And yes, Matt, you're right. We do cover their back a little bit. We're not obligated to do that, but we try to keep an eye on them, make sure if there's anything coming that's over 35, 40 knots, we'll start giving them information on what's coming, make sure they get good, accurate weather forecasting, and then we'll even suggest, if we think it's the right thing to do, a routing course for them to take to minimise the impact of that bad weather. And that's just pretty much common sense to minimise the overall risk. So Steve Cotterill was wondering about 2022. Where's the race headquarters going to be? You know, where's race control now for 2022? So basically, when we conceived the idea of the GGR, we were in Tonga on our boat with computers. We ran the office for the GGR right up until the last few months before the start, from Tonga, from China, from Australia, from Germany, from England, from Bali, and from Holland. All our team members were spread out all over the place, but that's the deal with connectivity. We're basically working wherever our computers are, and that will be the case leading into 2022. We'll shut the office down here in Les Sables d'Olonne completely once Tapio gets into port. A few days later it'll be shut down; it won't exist, and other activities will take over. Then we'll be in Tonga then, working out of the Royal Namuka Yacht Club. We will be starting up. Barry's retiring, actually. Barry Pictou is retiring, so he won't be doing our media anymore. He's going on holidays, travelling. He's still there as assistant. You know, he's a mate. He'll he's part of this whole GGR family, so he might be off the payroll, but I got to tell you, he'll still be there. But anyway, and then we've got David Cosworth, our commercial director. He's living in Copenhagen, so he'll be working from Copenhagen, and he'll be travelling all over Europe talking to companies and so on. And Annetta, digital assistant, doing some of the design work and web and stuff. She either works from Bali or Germany, wherever she is. So basically that's what's happening. It goes back to a mobile office. And then we all come together at least once a year to do some sort of function or whatever. And the office of the GGR will, let's just assume that we're coming back to La Sable d'Olonne in 22, because it's not official yet. We've still got things to do. If that was the case, there will be an office that will open up here in La Sable d'Olonne around about 12 months before the start of the race. So it gives us a footprint here of a couple of years, 12 months before the start. Then we do the race, and then there's a follow-up after that. So, but it's fantastic to be able to work online. And the GGR family, you will not notice the difference. I mean, we're still there doing posts. We're still on the same emails. We've got phone numbers. We're on Skype. That's the way of the world these days, so all good. Anyway, this is going to be my last live, I think, from France, because I'm on a plane on Saturday night. I'll be back in China the next day, and we'll be coming up and doing all sorts of things in the meantime. So thanks for that, and we'll carry on. Have a good night. See ya.